Hey everybody.
Hi everyone.
Welcome back to Mario Kart. It's been a minute.
Okay. What is this? What are we doing? Mario Kart Monday?
It's Mario Kart Monday, but not.
It's Mario Kart Fridays, the Fast and the Furious.
Fast and Furious Friday.
Okay.
All of our jokes won't feel organic anymore because we had to restart a couple times due to technical difficulties.
Yeah, this is
but they were very
third
good.
Try. Yeah.
If you're watching this on YouTube later, they were very good jokes.
They were great jokes. Go to like our VODs on Twitch so you can see our great jokes.
Yeah, exactly, C. Dewey.
Yo, let's talk about it. Why did we resurrect this segment, Chelsea?
Well, Clark, as the viewers may know, if they tuned into this segment before, we used to do Mario Kart Monday every other week to sort of have an unofficial podcast type of thing where we just talked about random shit.
Unofficial podcast. I like that.
Yeah. But then, due to declining popularity and interest, both on our part and viewers' part, and people who just are playing Mario Kart part, we decided to discontinue it until we actually had something we wanted to discuss. And now we do.
We have a couple things we want to discuss. And hey, just like last time, you want to play with us, get on in here. I didn't know if you're buds with Chel on the Nintendo network, but if you type into the chat !FC, you can see our friend codes.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, go to our Twitch profile in chat, and you can do that then.
Well, anyway, Chelsea, what are we talking about today? Why did we even bother saddling up on Link's old hog?
Well, we had a couple of things we were thinking about discussing. One is that Clark and I just binged all of Fullmetal Alchemist 03 and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
And two, Chelsea watched Infinity War, and
I have opinions.
She has opinions about it. Chelsea, I've never even remotely cared about the Avengers, so Can you catch me up to speed? What happened in Infinity War?
Okay, spoilers for Infinity War. If you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to get spoiled, please leave and then go see it and then come back and watch the VOD. You've been warned.
Yeah.
So, Infinity War, I guess first I'll just give a brief sort of synopsis.
Of all the Marvel movies.
Of all of the Marvel movies. So in 2000... okay. So you did watch Thor Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. One of the few Marvel movies you actually enjoyed. Mm-hmm. As you know, at the end of Thor Ragnarok, Ragnarok happens, and spoilers for Thor Ragnarok, Thor and Loki take all of the Asgardians onto their giant ship and leave.
Yes.
As Asgard becomes destroyed.
And Thor declares as they leave, I call this the SS Friend ship.
Yes. And, you know, Thor Ragnarok, pretty great movie, pretty lighthearted and humorous for the most part. The beginning of Infinity War kind of puts a little bit of a downer on that.
Interesting. Can you explain to me?
It opens up on Thor's ship, and pretty much everyone's dead.
Oh. That is a downer.
At the end of Thor Ragnarok, the post-credit scene is that Loki and Thor are kind of looking out the window into space, having a little heart-to-heart. And then they look out and they see this enormous other spaceship has met them. And that ship turns out to be Thanos' ship, and Thanos is the main antagonist of the movie.
What's a Thanos?
Thanos is an antagonist from the Marvel Comics. To be honest, I don't know a huge amount about him, besides like sort of a generic who he is and what I saw in the movie.
Is it like purposeful that his name is adjacent to the Greek god of death, Thanatos?
I don't know. Possibly.
Okay.
So Thanos' whole deal is he believes that, like, you know, there's suffering in the universe, there's poverty and starvation and war and blah, blah, blah.
That's bad.
Yeah, and that's bad. And he thinks, hey, you know what the most practical solution is?
Go write your local congressperson.
Yeah, no. He believes the best solution would be to just kill half the population.
Wait,
of
half?
all. Half.
That seems like that wouldn't work. I question this plan.
Yeah.
I thought his idea was gonna like kill everybody.
No.
Problem solved.
No, his theory was if you kill half the population, then there's no overpopulation, so resources are no longer scarce. No one will be hungry or poor, and therefore have no reason to like go to war with each other over resources and blah blah, that sort of thing.
Thanos is a fucking idiot.
Yeah. So then, apparently, according to what he talks about in the movie, on his home planet, he was the king and he proposed this. And obviously everyone was like, no.
Everyone was like, that's the dumbest shit I ever heard.
Yeah, everyone was like, you're insane. That's a bad idea.
Hey, Greta.
Hey, Greta. So, so Thanos is just like, fuck you, I do what I want. And decided to make his mission to find all the Infinity Stones to give him the power to erase half of everyone.
It was his Dragon Ball wish.
Yeah, this is a Dragon Ball wish. So, one of the things in the Marvel Universe...
Whoa, that's not a pit video game. That's an alley.
Is that... Okay, so if for some reason someone lives under a rock and isn't aware of this...
I'm not aware of this, Chelsea.
The whole thing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe that makes it really cool is that they're like a bunch of different movies that sort of all tie together. And one of the sort of MacGuffin that has tied the movies together thus far has been the Infinity Stones. They pop up in different movies, usually as just a cameo, but sometimes as the actual MacGuffin in the movie, for instance, in the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then this was sort of like, one of the reasons this movie was a big deal is that these MacGuffins that have been appearing in movies for like over 10 years now are finally sort of coming to a head. So Thanos wants to... So there are 5 stones. Each stone has a different superpower. It gives you power over like space, time, etc. And if you have all of them, then it's like Dragon Ball, where you can do whatever the fuck you want.
So there's like the Space Stone, the Time Stone.
There's the Soul Stone.
What does that do?
I think the Soul Stone gives you power over like life and death or something.
Okay.
The Soul Stone is the newest one. It didn't show up until this movie.
Is there a stone that like called the fuck stone to make you good at fucking?
Probably.
Really? Did Thanos get that one?
Well, you'd have to watch the movie to find out.
Oh, wow, Chelsea, way to hold that information hostage.
Anyway, so for all these like 20-something movies, it's like the bottom line has been Thanos trying to get these freaking stones. So in this movie, he finally does. So one thing that the movie actually surprised me with that was good, I'm sorry, I kind of got veered off course and now I'm not really doing a synopsis anymore, but...
It's fine, I feel like I'm learning a lot. Is Thanos short for Ethanos? Like
Ethan?
Yeah, like his name is Ethanos?
Yes, that's my new headcanon now. Anyway, sorry, I'll try to get back to the synopsis. So it starts out with right after Thor Ragnarok, Thanos boards Thor's ship, kills everyone.
Whoa, everyone?
Pretty much everyone.
Even
I think
Thor?
Thor, Loki, and Heimdall are like the only people alive. I mean, so Thanos' whole thing, like I said, is that he believes in by killing half the population that'll fix things.
And that's
So he like will go around conquering different planets, and then he will like, and we see in a flashback he does this, where once he wins the war, he like divides everybody up on 2 different sides, and then just murders one side of them. So I would presume that that's what he does on Thor's ship, but we don't really see what happened to, like, unless I missed it, we don't really see what happened to the side that survived. We only see the side that's dead.
okay.
So it was, but Thor does also say that he killed half of his crew or his people. So I guess he didn't kill all of them. I don't know. That part wasn't super clear, to be honest.
Okay.
But anyway, as far as we can see, Thor, Loki, and Heimdall are the only ones still alive. Heimdall's sort of just hanging on by a thread. He's been mortally wounded. Heimdall uses the last of his power to... Oh yeah, the Hulk is there. Heimdall uses the last of his power to get the Hulk... to use the Bifrost to get the Hulk out of there, to warn everybody on Earth, because they know Thanos is going to go to Earth next to get the other Infinity Stones.
Gotcha. Hey, real quick, side note.
Yes.
Just so you know, whenever you're ready, phone sent a friend request.
Yeah, I saw it in the corner.
Oh, okay.
I'll do that now.
Gotcha.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so...
Hulk's gonna come warn everybody because Thanos going to
Yeah.
Earth.
So then Loki, being the trickster, tries to convince Thanos, like, yeah, I've been on your side this whole time. And then in, like, maybe the dumbest move I've ever seen him do, he just straight up immediately, not very subtly, hides a knife behind his back and tries to stab Thanos, which doesn't work. And Thanos, like, kills Loki.
Oops. What a trickster.
Yeah. Which, of course, really pisses off Thor. And then Thanos blows up Thor's ship with Thor still on it. And then we cut to Earth with Tony and Pepper and all those guys. So one thing that the movie did a pretty good job of that I wasn't expecting was that... What?
Who's Pepper?
Pepper Potts? Tony's secretary / love interest.
Oh, okay.
Well, she's not his secretary anymore. Now she's the CEO of the company.
Her name is Pepper Potts?
Yeah. Marvel, and especially Stan Lee, loves alliterative names.
But those are just 2 words. I mean, it's cool to love alliterative names like, I don't know, like Bucky, what's the
Bucky Barnes?
Yeah, Bucky Barnes.
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker.
James Jonas Jameson Jr.
Those are all names. The Pepper Potts is just, it's like he was fucking crunching for time trying to write his new comic, and he's like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? And he looked at his kitchen and he was like, okay, got it.
This is my new headcanon now. Anyway, what I was saying was, the movie does a pretty good job of, like, giving different characters their fair share of screen time. It does a pretty good job of sort of switching between the different groups of characters. Like I said, it starts out with Thor, then it goes over to, like, Earth with Tony, and then Bruce shows up, and they meet Stephen Strange.
Another one.
Another one. And Spider-Man too. And then after that stuff happens, it switches over to the Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's actually a pretty fun transition, because like it has sort of the typical like subtitle that says where you are, and for theirs it just says space, and it's like got 80s music playing. So you know right off the bat who we're meeting next. And then the Guardians are following a distress beacon, and it turns out to be Thor's ship, and they're like, oh shit, everyone's dead, what the fuck happened? And then Thor they run into Thor just sort of floating in space and help him out, and his interactions with the Guardians are like one of the best parts of the movie, because as you may know, Thor got a bit of a personality transplant in Ragnarok.
You mean Thor got a personality?
Yeah, so he got a personality.
Yeah.
And his personality is kind of similar to Peter Quill's, so watching them interact was kind of funny.
Were they best bros immediately? Or were did they butt heads?
They butted heads. It was actually, that happened a lot in the movie, because one thing that I found interesting with, I'm sorry if I'm a little rambly, as viewers probably know in this segment, it's a little hard to focus on the game and talking. But one of the things they could have done was sort of split the different groups up and then sort of put them back together with still having the balanced different like archetypes, I guess. But I think what they did was more interesting in that they instead sort of took characters that were the similar types and stuck them together, and then because they didn't have like the different other opposite personalities to bounce off of, they instead sort of butted heads and had to like figure out how to work with a new dynamic, which I appreciated. Like Stephen Strange and Tony Stark meet and interact, and they are sort of similar in personality. They're sort of both the, hey, I'm the smartest guy who knows what to do. And it was like, no, I am. And like, you know, it's better than that, obviously, but
no, I liked your version. I can just imagine Robert D. Jr. and fucking
Benedict Cumberbatch
just saying stuff like, I'm the smartest guy, I got a big company, and he's like, I don't know how to do tricks and magic.
Yeah. But yeah, and then they had that again with Peter Quill and Thor, and it was pretty hilarious. And then, so they got together, but then they almost immediately divided up with Rocket Raccoon and Groot going with Thor to this place where his hammer was created to get a new sort of weapon.
Yeah. The Surla table. The Home Depot.
Yeah, the Home Depot.
It's where you can find quality hammers. This stream's sponsored by Home Depot. Let's do it together.
Yeah, and then the rest of the Guardians decide to try to go fight Thanos somewhere.
Sorry, what?
Well, they find out that one of the stones is on Nowhere, which is this place they went to in Guardians of the Galaxy. And they were like, well, if we know he's going to go there, we have to at least try to stop him from getting the stone. So that's what they go do.
Okay.
And it doesn't work out. Thor and Rocket and Groot all go to this magical place, and Peter Dinklage is there. I was surprised to see him.
Wait, Peter Dinklage, what the fuck Marvel movie was he in?
Was he in one before?
Wasn't he? Wasn't he the bad guy in one of them?
I feel like that's true, but I don't remember.
Fucking, what was he the bad? Oh no, wait, he was the bad guy in an X-Men.
Yeah,
movie.
he was the bad guy in an X-Men movie.
Okay.
Whatever,
same thing.
Anyway.
It's in Marvel. I hate that that's not Marvel because of studio rights reasons.
Well, now it could be in the future.
No, I know. Now it is, but it's like, it's not.
Yeah.
Before, fucking Kurt Russell, or whoever the fuck, who plays Wolverine? Not Kurt Russell.
No, I know this.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman. But anyway, they talk to Peter Dinklage, and he's like a giant dwarf.
What?
Because he's like how I don't know anything about this lore, but from what I sort of inferred from the movie is that he belongs to this race of aliens who are sort of like dwarves from Lord of the Rings, but they're huge, because like Thor standing next to him is like, comes up to his waist or something.
I see.
Oh
boy, I don't know what's happening in this movie anymore.
Yeah, it's actually it was more complicated than I expected. And so again, we've talked about this before, but I feel like the big draw of the Avengers movies, where a bunch of different characters come together, is watching these characters that you've watched in their individual movies get to meet and interact.
Okay.
And so obviously they try to publicize it so that, it's the biggest movie, everyone should see it. But I don't think you can really appreciate it unless you're actually already a fan of the characters who are in it.
Sure. Basically trying to watch the Avengers 3
Yeah.
Infinity War would be trying to watch the most recent season of Game of Thrones without watching any of the previous seasons.
Yeah, I was actually even thinking about that the other day. It's kind of like that episode where Cersei and Daenerys and Tyrion and everybody are all in the same meeting place.
Yeah.
It's it's a really epic moment, but if you hadn't watched the previous seasons, you wouldn't care. You'd be like, oh, cool dragon, I guess.
Oh, sick. Whoa, is that a zombie? What?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of the same case. It's like if you don't like or didn't watch the previous movies with all these characters in it, you'll be like, oh, cool special effects, cool action scene, but I don't care about what's happening.
Real quick, I'm sorry to keep distracting you, but a while back, Phone did want to know what you thought of Guardians 2.
I liked Guardians 2. I don't know if I liked it more than the first one, but I still enjoyed it. I had mixed feelings about the main antagonist. On one hand, it was I guess it felt like they were trying to do something different, but on the other hand, I found it also kind of predictable.
Yeah. I thought Guardians 2 was a little bit mediocre.
Yeah.
It had its moments, but I didn't care for the main antagonist. I hated Baby Groot. And I thought that as much as I liked Whistle Dad, I thought the moment that he and fucking Chris Pratt had wasn't really earned. I didn't believe in the emotional connection.
Yeah.
But just my 2 cents. My 2 cents.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay, sorry about that. Back to Avengers 3.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, basically most of the movie, plot-wise, is fairly simple, which I think it has to be with so many freaking characters. You can't have a very complicated plot and also give all the different characters enough screen time and lines and any sort of development. So it actually did a better job with that than I expected. Granted, there were definitely certain characters that were just sort of there to help with the big battle scene.
I'm sorry. I heard an interesting idea of how... No, never mind. I'll save this. Keep going.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you for no reason.
But what was I? I lost my train of thought now.
There's a lot of people there to help out with the big battle scenes.
Yeah, but they did a good job of giving more characters more time than I expected. The Guardians all got a decent amount of time. Gamora got a whole sort of subplot, which makes sense because she's Thanos' adopted daughter.
Right. Now, Thanos has 2 daughters, Gamora and Nebula, right?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the kind of big moments was that to get the Soul Stone, Thanos had to you have to sort of earn the Soul Stone by sacrificing something that you love. And at first, and Gamora is there with Thanos because she's been captured. And at first she laughs at him and she's like, "Ha, you don't love anyone. So now this is the universe's fuck you, because you'll never get the Soul Stone now." And he turns to her and he's crying and he's kind of
Thanos tears. Purple alien tears.
And he throws her off the cliff.
Ooh.
Yep.
I used to have a dope-ass action figure of Thanos when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, from when he, I don't know, the comics, right? So he's I don't know how he looked in Avengers 3, the War for Thanos. But in this one, he had this ridiculous blue jumpsuit and big orange gloves, and he was just fucking neon lavender. And it's so 90s, like,
Yeah.
comic book design. It's insane.
Yeah, they definitely made his coloring more subdued,
Yeah.
but he is still purple.
I guess you can't really fucking change that.
Yeah.
You can't change, like, the base color of a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but, like, people would be like, I'm not Thanos.
Yeah.
You'd be like, who the fuck is this orange Thanos? They don't even care about the source material.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I didn't hate, but I thought was a little unnecessary was that in the scene where he kills Gamora, the, like, keeper of the Soul Stone, who sort of guards it and is supposed to guide those who are trying to find it, is the Red Skull from Captain America?
Like, wait.
Like
Wasn't that guy a Nazi?
yeah. So in Captain America, he like grabs the Tesseract, which is one of the Soul Stones, and it is established that like a normal mortal man, or anyone really who isn't some sort of powerful being already, can't directly touch a Soul Stone or any of the Infinity Stones, or it'll kill them. So when he does that, he sort of gets vaporized and beamed up to space at the end of Captain America, and it was never really clear what happened to him. And like because of they did that, I always figured, like some people thought he was dead, but I always kind of figured that they left it ambiguous in case they wanted to bring him back for something later. And they did, but the way they brought him back, I was like, okay, I don't really care. It sort of felt like, I don't know, it felt a little bit to, I think I was talking about it to my friend, and she pointed out that they probably just wanted it to be like a character who already existed instead of some rando new character, maybe, which
Sure.
maybe that's the case. But to me, it felt a little bit like the writers were sort of, oh yeah, we never really tied up that plot line. Red Skull has been here this whole time on this random planet, guarding the Soul Stone. Yep, don't question it. But anyway, that was one of the moments in the movie where I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, again, I didn't think it was a bad choice necessarily, but I felt like it felt jarring.
Hi, Super Flips.
Hey, Super Flips.
If I eat? Yo, dude, I don't know what that means. Sorry. I assume it means eat, in which case, yeah, go for it. Or maybe, like, you misspelled Yeezy, and right now, it's unpopular to like Yeezy. So, then we do mind.
Anyway, I'm sorry I kind of, like, get sidetracked and brush over some other plot points. But long
is
story
safe.
short, the Guardians went to try to stop Thanos from getting one of the stones, but turned out he already got it, and captured Gamora, made her tell him where the Soul Stone was. He went and got that and killed her for it. Meanwhile, the rest of the Guardians, Peter and them, go to Titan, which was Thanos' home planet, which is all fucked up now. Which is where, oh yeah, so, sorry, sort of backtracking. Back on Earth with Tony and Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, a couple of Thanos' cronies showed up trying to get the Time Stone, which Doctor Strange has. And they fight them, but then they sort of, one of the guys manages to capture Doctor Strange and take him on his alien ship. And so Tony and Peter stow away on the ship to try to save him. So they're all in space. And then they defeat the guy who captured Doctor Strange, but they're sort of stuck in space now, and they ended up on Titan as well. So when they get out, they then meet Peter Quill and the Guardians, which is sort of another fun interaction. Okay. So then Doctor Strange uses his time stone to look at like different possible future timelines, and he says he looks at like 100,000 something or something. I don't remember.
Yo, is his time stone named Garnet?
Good one.
Thank you.
He looks at like a bajillion.
A bajillion?
A bajillion.
Holy dude.
A Brazilian.
Oh man. Oh. Are they sexy?
Yeah. Now he looks at like.
Now that's a come a dick to Bender batch.
Yeah.
Fanfic I'd read.
He looks at several thousand possible timelines.
Yo, if you spoonrise his name, it's cum addict Bender batch.
You cracked the code.
Oh my god! This is the best day of my life. Okay, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, he looks at like a bunch of different timelines, and he says that he only finds one where they win. So they're like, okay, well, let's do that. So Thanos shows up, and they put into motion this plan that seems to be going pretty well. They seem to have Thanos sort of on the ropes. But then Peter Quill, not Peter Parker, even though both are there, so that's a little confusing.
Home Slice, it's like we have said 2 sentences about the movie, and we said at the beginning of the stream that it was a spoiler thing. Just keep going.
Yeah, sorry if you came in late, but we are talking about it. I guess we could put it in the title, that the spoilers, if you want.
I'll have to restart the stream.
Yeah.
Should we do that real quick? Everyone hold on 2 seconds.
Okay, we're back.
We'll be back. And are we back? Why didn't I change the thing? Okay, I changed the thing. Hi everyone, we're back.
We're back.
Okay.
To be fair, this is the internet and the movie's been out for a week now.
I mean, like, I feel no remorse so far. I know, you know, I don't know. I don't have a lot of, I think, room to complain because I only don't care about the spoilers because I don't care about the series. I'm sure if somebody was like on the internet spouting spoilers about like Game of Thrones or something equally like kind of asinine, I would probably wring my hands and tear out my hair, but whatever. We put it in the fucking title, so now we've covered our ass. So
Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah, so they're fighting Thanos. Seems to be going well, but then Peter Quill finds out that he killed Gamora, so he freaks the fuck out and ruins sort of the fight. So Thanos managed to get the upper hand and is kicking everybody's asses. And then he, meanwhile, back on Earth, he has sent like his forces to go try to get the final Infinity Stone, which is the Mind Stone, which is embedded inside Vision's forehead. Oh yeah, another subplot that's been going on this whole time has been that on Earth they found out pretty soon because Bruce went and told them that Thanos was trying to get the stones. And some of his cronies already like attacked Vision and tried to get it, but Captain America saved him. And Scarlet Witch and Black Widow and them.
okay.
So they were trying to figure out what to do about Vision's stone that is, literally part of his body. And Vision is saying, well, the smartest thing to do is just to destroy the stone so that if he can't get all the stones, he can't win. But they don't want to, but they figure like, well, if we do that, you'll die. They don't want that to happen, so they figure they would try to remove the stone from him in a way that won't kill him, and then destroy it.
Gotcha.
So they go to Wakanda, where Black Panther lives, because that's like the most technologically advanced place on Earth. And they get Shuri to try to get it off. So she's been doing that. Meanwhile, they've been sort of preparing for Thanos' crew to show up and fight them, which they do. And there's this big battle and stuff, which then... So, I'm sorry if my synopsis is very rambly, but the movie, because even though it's like all these different characters coming together, a lot of it is also different groups of them in different places doing different things sort of simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So it is a little bit hard to explain.
Hey, you're doing a great job. You don't gotta apologize.
Thank you.
I follow it, except for the part where they went to nowhere. That was a little confusing. I'm gonna be
right
back.
Careful.
Oh shoot! Sorry, Chelsea. I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
This is a.
It's called Nowhere. It's the name of the place.
That I don't. Okay.
Anyway, so meanwhile, while this has all been going on, like I said, Thor, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot all went to go talk to Peter Dinklage. That's a great sentence.
Yeah.
And Thanos had already been there, and he basically took their realm sort of hostage and made Peter Dinklage's character, who he's like the blacksmith for the gods or whatever. He made Thor's hammer.
Wait, Peter Dinklage is the blacksmith of the gods?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense to me.
It does?
Well, yeah, because it's like Norse mythology.
Yeah.
The Dwarf King is the fucking blacksmith for Odin.
Yeah. So that's that. But unfortunately,
I stepped on the plug.
Oh no. So they go there, but it turns out Thanos was already there, took all of Peter Dinklage's people hostage, and made Peter Dinklage make him the gauntlet that Thanos uses to hold all the Infinity Stones, and then killed all of Peter Dinklage's people anyway. So he's pretty bummed about that. But Thor convinces him to make him a new weapon to try to defeat Thanos, which he does, and Thor has to do this whole thing because the star that powers their furnace thing isn't working, so he has to fix that and do this whole little side quest thing. But they do that, and he gets this really cool axe that is also a Bifrost, so that means Heimdall, who died earlier, probably will never come back now because his Thor has his own Bifrost now, so that's too bad. Man, I'm so distracted now.
Thanos lost his job.
Yeah.
Or not Thanos, Heimdall.
Yeah. So Thor gets a new weapon, which is this really cool axe, and
like Kratos.
Yeah, just like Kratos. And part of it is this part was a little silly to me because Peter Dinklage is then oh, I can't find the handle for the axe. I gotta find it before the metal cools or whatever. And part of me was like, why didn't you have that ready? But but also the reason was plot, because then Groot makes the handle with his own tree arm thing. So that's cool. So Thor gets a new weapon, and he uses the power of the Bifrost with his new weapon to get to Earth just in the nick of time as the battle in Wakanda is sort of taking a turn for the worst. Thor shows up and helps and sort of turns the tide back in the Avengers favor. And then there's like a cool battle sequence.
Baby Park.
Baby Park.
I hope it's Baby Park, you guys.
I don't.
Baby Park.
So then, like I said, back with Thanos, he sort of ends up defeating Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and the Guardians. And he's about to kill Iron Man, but Stephen Strange instead offers him the Time Stone so that he doesn't kill Tony.
Stephen.
Which
Don't.
a lot of people that I've talked to have been like, why did he do that? Why didn't he just use the Time Stone to reverse time or blah blah blah? And I'm like, well, obviously this is still the timeline where we win. Like, this is all part of the plan. At least that was my theory while watching it, and I think a lot of people on the internet seem to agree from what I've seen. So yeah, Strange gives Thanos the Time Stone so that Tony doesn't get killed. Thanos takes the stone and then teleports to Earth and starts going after Vision. Vision obviously doesn't want him to get the stone, so he tries to convince Wanda to kill him by destroying the stone. Wanda and Vision are love interests. They've been together for a while at this point, so she obviously is very reluctant to do so, but he manages to convince her for, the greater good to do it. So she uses her magic to kill Vision and by destroying the stone. And she's sort of like to Thanos, like, fuck you, we did it. But then he just uses the Time Stone to reverse time.
Aw, damn it.
Yeah. So Vision is alive again for a second, only for Thanos to rip out the Soul Stone, and then he's dead again. So then he's got all the stones. Thanos has all the stones. And then now this is the part that did admittedly surprise me a little bit. I expected, going into it, I expected Thanos to get all the stones, because that's the sort of typical plot thing of...
It looks like the bad guy's gonna fucking win.
Yeah, well, yeah, and also, sort of you start out with this ultimatum of, hey, we can't let the bad guy get the MacGuffin, or we can't let this certain thing happen.
Mm-hmm. That thing's gonna happen.
Yeah, but then the thing, happens, and they have to figure out a way to overcome this worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. So what I expected to happen was that I thought maybe he would get the stones at the very end of the movie, and then it would just end. And then the next movie would be about them figuring out how to stop him. Or maybe, he would get the stones, and then they would just stop him in this movie. But turns out none of those things happened. He gets the stones, and he fucking wins.
Bad guy wins.
He erases half of the people from existence. And it's definitely the most sort of dark ending to a Marvel movie. Or at least the most sort of, I don't know if the term would be melancholic, but I guess it's just sort of this sort of...
It's a little dour.
Yeah. And it ends with random characters sort of crumbling out of existence. And I had mixed feelings about it. On one hand, I did not expect it, so I was like, oh shit, they actually went there. But on the other hand, I didn't really feel anything. You could tell the movie was really trying to make you feel sad, oh my god, Peter's dying, Bucky died, Scarlet Witch just died, holy shit. But I was more they'll be back.
You're more but Black Panther 2, I suppose I can look it up.
As smart as the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been about promoting their upcoming movies and getting the hype and stuff, it did kind of also shoot them in the foot with this twist of, oh, all these characters died. Yeah, they're not coming back, even though we know that Sebastian Stan has been contracted for like 3 more movies after this. I mean, I guess on the other hand, even if they like lied about what movies were coming up or something, or just didn't tell us, it still wouldn't have been that believable just because of the sheer amount of characters that get quote-unquote killed. It's like, they're not actually, like, even if we didn't know they were coming back for future movies, you can tell they're probably not actually killing off this many characters at once. So like I said, on one hand, kind of a cool twist, but on the other hand, I didn't really get a huge amount of emotion from it, like the movie clearly intended. But yeah, that's how the movie ends, with sort of the characters who are still there being like, holy shit, what just happened? And then the post-credit scene is like Nick Fury and Maria Hill are driving down the street and get in a car crash, and they're like, what the fuck? And it's because whoever was driving the car that crashed into them got erased from existence. And they start seeing like other similar things happen, like a plane crashes into a building because the pilot disappeared, that sort of thing.
Gotta get ready for the rapture, people.
Yeah. And then Nick and Maria also disappear, but not before Nick managed to call someone on his communicator, which I believe is an allusion to the new Captain Marvel movie. I don't really know anything about Captain Marvel, but from the like little design that was on his screen, it looked like the Captain Marvel logo, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the movie. All around, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I would maybe say it's the best of the 3 Avengers movies.
Wow.
That said, Avengers 2 was bad.
Avengers 2 was bad, huh? That's pretty impressive, because I thought Avengers 1 was bad.
I thought Avengers 1 was pretty good. But again, most of the goodness of it was the characters that you already know and love meeting and interacting.
The best thing about Avengers 1 was that it made me aware that shawarma exists, and I ate it, and it was good.
Shawarma is pretty good. Yeah, I think one of the problems with Avengers 2 was actually that there wasn't a lot of, like, oh hey, the guys you like are all coming together. Like, Civil War did a better job with that, honestly. Because that one had, like, more characters that you care about, I think, who are already introduced. Whereas,
Civil War was good because you only really needed to know about 2 characters.
Yeah. But Avengers 2, from what I remember, it was mainly characters that already knew each other from the previous movies, like the Avengers, plus like the new characters that joined them were basically, I think, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who didn't really exist before, except in like a teaser. So you didn't really super care about them meeting because you didn't know them. But anyway, so yeah, I liked it. I think, like I said, they did a pretty good job with sharing the screen time. One thing that surprised me, like I said, they did give the Guardians of the Galaxy more like plot relevancy than I expected, and same with Doctor Strange. One thing that surprised me was they didn't give Captain America a very large role. He was there and he helped lead the battle and stuff. But in terms of like actually doing something to move the plot forward on his own, Tony and Peter Quill and Stephen Strange and even like Vision kind of had much bigger roles. So I kind of wonder if that's gonna lead up to maybe Cap doing more in the next one, possibly leading up to maybe he'll sacrifice himself in the next one to stop Thanos or something.
Why do you want Cap to die so
I don't
bad,
want Cap
Chelsea?
to die. I'm
Like-
trying to mentally prepare myself because I feel like it's gonna happen.
Before this happened, before you saw the movie, you were like, Cap's gonna die.
Yeah, well, that was mainly because I saw some reactions where people were like, "Oh my gosh, the movie destroyed me," and it was mostly people I follow who like love Cap. So I was like, "Oh no."
And now after the movie's over, you're like, I hope Cap dies. And I'm like, Chelsea, where's your loyalty to poor Cap, to poor Steven Salami or whatever his name is?
I don't know. I just like I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for when it happens because like it happens in the comics more than once, and I feel like there was already kind of people suspecting it would happen because I think before they decided to do Civil War instead, I think one of the Captain America movies that was announced was called The Rising Sun, which is the comic where he dies. So everyone was freaking out. And also it would sort of make sense because I feel like if they kill off Cap, then either Bucky or Sam will be the next Captain America. And I feel like it's more likely it would be Bucky because Bucky is one of the like supporting characters that's gotten the most, I guess, significance and focus. So it wouldn't be, I don't know, surprising, I guess, if part of his like through line is to become the new captain.
Or what about this? Since Bucky recuperated in Wakanda, he becomes the new Black Panther.
Yeah, that's your phone. I don't know. I hope that that Cap doesn't die, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It's not like Chelsea wants Captain to die, guys. I don't know. I don't know why Chelsea hates Captain America, but if I were to guess, I think it's because she's a German.
Oh. Yeah, that's probably it. What else?
Is there a Captain Deutschland, Chelsea?
I don't believe so. There's Supermarket.
I don't know. Is that like... That sounds like something you could get at the Olive Garden.
No, Supermarket is actually like this satirical thing on a popular radio station. Angela Merkel is, you know, the
name of certain triangles in Germany.
Yeah. No, she's like the leader.
She's the prime minister,
Yeah.
right? Or the president? I don't know what they got
Yeah.
over there.
And there was like this little bit on this radio station where they would be like, "It's Supermerkel! Da 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 da!" And it was silly. Anyway. What are some other things that I can talk about in the movie? So one thing that I had mixed feelings about was Gamora's death. On one hand, it did make sense narratively that if Thanos had to like sacrifice something he loved or someone he loved, it would be Gamora, because she's the only one he's ever shown any sort of like care about. Like he doesn't give a shit about Nebula.
Nice hands.
Hi, Sans.
Now, why is her name Gamora?
Oh.
Well, here's the thing.
It does always make me think of like
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to ask whoever created Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy as created by fundamentalist Christians. I'm looking up Gamora.
Okay.
Because I'm very curious.
Anyway, as I was saying, so it did make sense narratively that if Thanos had to sacrifice someone he loved, it would be Gamora. However, part of me was kind of like, I love Marvel, but you do not have enough female characters. And Gamora was actually one of your strongest female characters. She was complex and a badass and could hold her own. And, had an interesting backstory and stuff like that.
Whoa.
And then...
Bad art. Interesting art.
And you just killed her off. So I'm hoping that maybe they'll pull a Dragon Ball Z, and when they get the Infinity Stones or whatever they're gonna do to reverse what Thanos did and get everybody who got erased back, they will also use that power to also get Gamora and Loki back. And Heimdall would be nice too, but seems less likely since his biggest plot convenience power of the Bifrost is now unnecessary. But he's also a really great character, so it would obviously be very nice if they brought him back. But anyway, so yeah, that was sort of my feelings about that scene. The scene itself was well done. It actually sort of made Thanos, not necessarily sympathetic or anything. He's, I didn't really feel sorry for him, but I guess it did make him feel a little more like a person instead of just
Big purple dick.
Yeah. But yeah. What else? I don't know, all the parts with Thor were pretty good. I'm glad they retained his Ragnarok personality traits and such. Stuff with Peter was all of Peter's lines were pretty great. There was a good line where he meets Doctor Strange and introduces himself. He's like, "Oh, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Peter." And he says, "I'm Doctor Strange." And Peter says, "Oh, we're using our made-up names. Okay, in that case, I'm Spider-Man."
Oh, you meant Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant Peter Quill.
Yeah, there are a lot of Peters. There are a lot of Peters, and then in real life, on set, there are a lot of Chris's.
Was Batman in it?
Huh?
Was Batman in it?
Unfortunately not.
Darn.
Maybe in the next one. But yeah, I think that's sort of my 2 cents on that. If anyone has any particular questions about the movie or my opinion on the movie that you want to ask, go ahead. And if I think about something later, I'll bring it up. But I think those were the biggest points I wanted to make. I don't know. All around, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. It had a lot of really good dialogue in it, an interaction between the characters, which is, again, I think the main draw of the Avengers movies where a bunch of characters get together. They handled really well the different sort of personalities of the different teams clashing and such. And I hope to see more of that in the next one. Although I am interested in how they're going to deal with the fallout of so many of the characters being gone, because I imagine they won't be able to get them back till the end of the next movie. So, pretty much all the Guardians of the Galaxy are gone, except for Rocket. So, they're not going to get a lot of screen time in the next one.
Isn't Nebula still there?
Yeah, I guess Nebula's there. She's not technically a Guardian of the Galaxy, but she is from their movies, so... and she is sort of on their side now. But yeah, good interaction between the characters. I was pleased with that. And it does make me interested in where it's going to go and how they're going to fix this shit. I guess one I was talking to my friend about it, and like I said earlier, she was like, why didn't Doctor Strange just use the Time Stone? So my biggest theory that I had while watching the movie was that, when he looks at the different potential timelines, Strange says, there's only one where they win, let's do that. And it sort of seems like it doesn't work, but I'm pretty sure that he saw all of this would happen, and he knew that, like, okay, Thanos is gonna win temporarily, and people are gonna get erased from existence, including myself, but the people who remain will stop him and bring us back, so everything's gonna be fine. So I'm pretty sure despite appearances, we're still in the timeline where we win.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait for Marvel to decide how everyone's gonna get brought back to life.
Who's gonna get their contract renewed?
You wanna move on to the other thing?
Sure, if no one else has any other last thoughts.
Do you think there's any chance Loki will come back?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that if they do go ahead and bring back characters who didn't just get erased, they'll probably bring back Gamora and Loki. I think the only other person who died outside of that is Heimdall, which, again, would be nice if they brought him back too, and kind of a dick move if they bring the others back and not him. But
get owned, Heimdall.
Also, I unfortunately would not be super surprised if they don't.
Do you like the action scenes?
I did like the action scene. Generally speaking, Marvel, has a giant budget, so they can do really good special effects and action, and usually their fight choreography is pretty good. And this was no exception to that. The battle in Wakanda was pretty intense.
Boring. Too long and too boring. It's not a joke. It's boring and long.
You didn't see it.
Yes, I did. Oh, you mean...
In this one.
Oh, okay. The battle scene in Black Panther and Wakanda is long and boring.
It went a little long.
Did you like the Black Order?
The Black Order. I'm drawing a blank as to what you were referring to. Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were called that. They were okay. We didn't really see enough of them to, gauge their personalities beyond just their henchmen. But, their fight scenes were cool. Oh, another thing that I was thinking about in the movie that was another complaint, and this sort of ties back into the thing with Gamora. There's this, recurring theme in a lot of action movies where the bad guys and the good guys will both have maybe one or two female characters, and then when it's time for the fight scene, the female characters fight each other. And I'm like, why? They can fight the dudes. They don't have to also fight the ladies to keep it even or whatever. It was really cool that Scarlet Witch and Okoye and Black Widow were all fighting side by side. That was badass. But then they like all had to fight the one female evil character. And I'm like, that's unnecessary. I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. Mainly because that is a recurring thing in a lot of action movies, and I'm a little tired of it.
What do you think of, like, at the end of every Marvel movie, I've noticed, in order to, like, cap things off, for the most part, there always is, like, a big fight. I always find these big fights to be, like, really long and padded out. Like, you know, they have fights in the middle of the movie, usually. Usually in a Marvel movie, you can expect there to be, like, a few big fights.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, the ones that aren't the last one are, like, pretty concise. And I think pretty, like, if it's a good Marvel movie, pretty reasonably narratively driven.
Yeah.
I always find the last fight to be, like, very long and drawn out, and I don't know, I always get bored with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Like, I think it's a thing where people, like, expect it now, so maybe they feel obligated to have that, which is, you know, not for the better. It is sort of unfortunate, but I guess also because I expect it, it doesn't really bother me.
Okay.
And like I said, usually like the special effects and the fight choreography and such are usually good enough that I don't mind watching it for a little while. But I do see your point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see Dewey. Like in a lot of other movies, Black Widow's fighting other like male characters and such. I guess the thing is, it was even more obvious in this movie because, like I said, there are like 3 really badass female characters, and sure they do fight some of the weird monster guys that are sort of like everywhere that they're fighting off. But in terms of the actual characters that are like the henchmen you sort of recognize and aren't just cannon fodder, they just fight the other female character. And it's sort of like, why?
Cause the girl got fight the girl.
Yeah. It's like, do you not think they're capable of fighting the male characters?
Listen, Chelsea.
It's annoying.
Doctor Strange can tell all the possibilities and understand the fabric of the universe, but a girl can't beat a guy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That fantasy don't track. Shut up, C. Dewey. It's super hot with a W and an A. Stop criticizing my heteronormative fantasy.
Yeah, okay.
Stop it!
But yeah, so that's
My patriarchal girl fights!
that's my sort of rambling review of Infinity War. Not my favorite Marvel movie by any stretch, but it was surprisingly good. And I don't regret seeing it or anything. I enjoyed it.
Well, I also don't regret you seeing it, so I guess we agree. So here's the other reason we decided to do Mario Kart Monday. On to topic 2. We watched recently both Fullmetal Alchemist animes, like back to back basically. And we're here to compare and to contrast the two.
Yes.
So if for some reason you don't know what Fullmetal Alchemist is, but yet you're still watching us play Mario Kart, the basic premise of both series is that there's these two brothers.
They're just called two brothers.
There's these two brothers. And they know science magic called alchemy. And alchemy is basically you take something
To obtain something of equal or greater value must be lost.
You take something and you deconstruct it, and then using its chemical components, you reconstruct it into something else. More or less, that's how it works. And you can do that with a special circle. And so they do it.
You have to like draw certain like this magic circle of like equations and symbols and shit.
So they do it. They learn how to do it as kids, and then their mom dies, and they're like, "Aw, dang. Oh, we gotta save our mom, bro."
They take the mourning stage of grief a little too far.
And so
Or the bargaining stage, rather.
they learn how to, like, you know, what a human is made of, and they try and bring their mother back to life. Now, the big, like, rub is that, like, what's the cost, and what is the cost of a human soul? And no one fucking knows. So they're like, I don't know, let's just guess. Here's some blood. And they try and bring their mom back. It doesn't work, and because of, like, magic rules.
Ed's hypothesis is that they use their blood because it's their blood from her blood. They share DNA, and so they figure that with that they could use it to bring their mom back.
Sure, but
it doesn't work.
trying to bring back a human soul from the dead is not only taboo amongst alchemists, but also it's like against sort of this cosmic rule of like trying to bring the dead back to life. It's not okay to do according to just the rules of the fucking universe. So when they do it, it ends up causing they end up being forced to pay more than just with their blood. Edward, the older brother, ends up having to pay with literally an arm and a leg.
Well, no, just the leg at first.
Okay, he has to pay with a leg, and Al, the younger brother, has to pay with his whole body. Now, Al's not technically dead at this point, so in order to make sure Al doesn't die, Ed pays with his arm to move his soul into a suit of armor.
That was in the room. Yeah.
That was in their basement, which cool fucking basement. But I digress.
It was their dad's study. He was also an alchemist.
Sure. Their dad isn't around, by the way.
Yeah, he left when
fucking deadbeat.
Yeah, he left when Ed was like, I don't know, 6
or 7.
Something like that.
Something like that. Anyway, Al's soul, the younger brother, gets bonded to the suit of armor, and being a suit of armor sucks ass because you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't feel feelings.
Well, you can feel feelings.
Okay, you can feel inner feelings,
nothing
but
physical.
You can't feel
tactile
feelings.
You can't feel like hugs or taste good food or sleep.
Yeah. Anywhere the life is bad and they're like, oh, we gotta get our bodies back, so they join the military because all the hot scientific secrets are held within the military.
Yeah, so they live in this country called Amestris, that's sort of loosely based on some sort of European-esque.
Chelsea, you have to get first place now because Chris paid us money for first place.
I did get first place.
I know, but you have to keep doing it.
Okay, I'll try. Oh yeah, so they live in Amestris, which is this country...
Vaguely similar to Europe.
Yeah, vaguely similar to Europe.
The country, Europe.
Yeah.
It's like...
But it's a militaristic government. So the military controls pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Which is why Ed decides, despite everyone pretty much agreeing that the military sucks, to join it in order to get resources.
It's like very strongly German, but it's not quite Germany, because there's like other sort of like non-German European influences in Amestris. It's like, maybe if you were to like try and boil it down to one country, I would say, yeah, it's Germany, but like that would be kind of a gross oversimplification.
Yeah.
Regardless, so that's the premise of both the 03 anime and the Brotherhood anime. These animes do diverge both in plot and, in my opinion, sort of overall tone.
Yeah, definitely. To give a little bit of context as to why there are two different animes. So, when the manga came out, it was popular quite quickly, for good reason. It's really good. Because of that, though, the animation studios wanted to hop on that cash cow. So they started the anime when the manga was not even close to being done, which is fairly common, to be honest. But so when that happens in an anime, what typically, there's sort of two ways to go about it. One way is the way that like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a lot of other shonen anime that aren't super plot heavy might go about it, where they just add a bunch of filler. They'll like have an entire season where it's just something that isn't in the manga at all and just sort of doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Or they will just, because they don't want to spoil the manga, go in a completely different direction plot-wise, which is what happens with Fullmetal Alchemist. Luckily, like even though the first anime is extremely good, especially considering the entire like second half of it is original by the animation studio, which, trust me, that can go badly. But thankfully, because Fullmetal Alchemist is so popular, they also were able to do Brotherhood a handful of years later, which after the manga was finished. So that one actually follows the original storyline of the manga. So that's the backstory on that.
So we've both seen both versions of this anime before. And so this was my second time watching each. I saw 03 when I was in like middle school when it was coming out. I stole the fucking torrents with fan subs off of the internet. And I don't know, I fucking loved it at the time. And then I saw Brotherhood for the first time way more recently when I moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I showed it to you, right?
Mm-hmm. I had known it existed, but I hadn't like watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we watched them back to back again because they're very good in their own rights. But also I was interested to like sort of see them in a direct comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in terms of like just quality of like a well-crafted story and a cohesive narrative, Brotherhood is better. But I think they both have their merits, and
yeah,
I wouldn't
for sure
fault you for liking 03 over Brotherhood.
Yeah, they're like, I definitely like Brotherhood more than 03, but there are also elements of 03 that I do think were extremely well done, and there are some elements that I think were even done a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. One thing I liked in 03 was I felt like sort of there were more concrete rules and consequences from misusing alchemy. A lot of times in Brotherhood, it felt like things were a little bit more loose. Like, a lot of, like things aren't necessarily like they're making it up as they're going along, but like some things that happened in Brotherhood were just like, oh, that's allowed? Okay. A couple of times...
Like what?
Well, a couple of times Ed just goes to like the gate because he does the right spell.
Well, he goes to the gate when human transmutation is involved. Because that's what takes you to the gate.
Yeah, but like, human transmutation is like, becomes kind of a vague concept.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, one of the things in the series is his sort of realization. Like, at first they sort of act on this idea of human transmutation is forbidden because it's bringing back people from the dead, and that's all it is. But as the series progresses, he kind of comes to realize, especially at the end, that transmuting a human when they're alive also counts.
But what does that mean?
It's like it is a little ambiguous, but I think it's sort of like when it involves transmuting a person's, like, I don't know if you'd call it their life, their soul, their life energy. But that's how I understood it.
Sure. I don't know. I find that pretty vague. Because, like, in a lot of instances, like, they talk about how human transmutation is, like, trying, like, for example, the first thing they do with human transmutation is they try and bring back their mother with, like, just chemical compounds and blood. There's no mention of like her physical soul or life energy. It's like just implicit that they're somehow trying to get her soul back.
Well, I think in that one, it's like not really said because they themselves don't realize it at the time, but I think it's that their own souls end up getting involved in that transmutation, which is why their bodies, like why Al's body and soul get taken, and then that's why they open up the gate. But I don't know, again, that's sort of just what I interpreted from like watching and reading it several times and sort of thinking about it back on it, you know, after I like knew all of the information.
Okay. I mean, that's a fine interpretation, but like it feels like nothing's really concrete.
Yeah.
And that's my point. It's like Ed just kind of realizes, oh, his souls open the gate, or life energy opens the gate, or something about human transmutation opens the gate. And so he can just do that kind of when the plot calls for it. Like, when they escape gluttony, it doesn't feel clever to me. It feels a little bit like unearned because he sees a philosopher's stone, and honestly, like, it seems like the easy answer would be to just sort of use the philosopher's stone as a McMuffin. Like, if they explained it less, it might have made more sense that, oh, Philosopher's Stone's kind of like just a get out of jail free card. But instead, like, Ed sort of vaguely explains Philosopher's Stones have this human soul-like property that makes me able to open the gate.
They are human souls.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I can get out of the gate with the gate. It's...
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, he realized it because he saw that part of the transmutation circle from Xerxes, and that was how he like figured it out. But I don't really remember enough details about that particular thing to like elaborately explain it, I guess.
I mean,
but I get what you're saying.
in sort of the flip side, I guess 03 might explain a little too much.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say, like, conversely to what you were saying, I actually there were moments in 03 where it felt to me like they sort of ignored the rules. Not so much in, like, what you're saying with, like, ambiguity, so much as there were times where, especially with, like, the original characters, would do a thing that seemed like didn't really go with what we knew about alchemy. Like, Lyra used one transmutation circle to do a bunch of different shit. And the same thing with the thief lady in the filler episode.
Well, that episode was dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest criticisms of 03 is that it has filler episodes that are bad. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, I can't really defend that. I feel like, I mean, I wish I could say just ignore that shit, but you can't, so whatever. Yeah, all the stuff that the thief lady does is total horseshit, and that whole episode is dumb.
Not bad. Did you want to talk more about that point, or?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I just think that I don't know. I feel like with the gate, the biggest mistake to make is to create an aspect that the characters understand that you don't. I feel like the gate is more powerful if either the characters and the viewers understand it, or if neither the characters nor the viewer understands it. I think one way it, like, is good for building a world and, like, world building and, like, a magic rules, and in the other way it makes it seem like sort of a mysterious presence that looms over the whole series.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as, like, Edward seems to understand the gate perfectly, but the audience is still sort of left scratching their head and, like, conjecturing on what's happening, I don't know, I feel like I want to know. Let me in on the secret.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the ending, like, it's a good ending. Like, besides the, like, kind of gate tomfoolery, like, the ending is about, like, you know, it's got, like, these big themes of, like, hubris and, like, sort of the meaningless of knowledge if it's only for its own sake, and it's, like, good, it's really good, but, like, there's this whole part in the ending that I didn't like for Brotherhood where, like, Edward, like, figures out that this gate is his gate, and he's like, it's his gate to bargain with, and the fucking Shadow Baby gets a fucking huge kick out of that, and it's all very vague. Yeah, it's like, this guy thought of one weird trick to get your brother back. Equivalent exchangers hate him. I mean, I don't know. I think that kind of concludes my reasoning of why the Gate of Truth is, I don't know, a little bit bullshit in Brotherhood.
Yeah.
But that's honestly, I think, kind of a minor point when you really consider the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, like, that never really bothered me, because it does sort of subtly establish, like, I think it's kind of clever how, it's Ed's perspective. So you don't really know, just as he doesn't know, that the gate is, like, his own personal, like, gateway inside his soul to this magical energy or whatever that alchemy is. This knowledge or whatever it is. Because you only ever see his gate.
It's cool to, like...
So then it's not until later when you, like, see Al's gate, and I think you see, like, the dwarf in the flask, his gate is blank, which I thought was interesting. I don't remember if you see anyone else's gate. Maybe you might see Azumi's at some point. I don't remember.
No, I don't think...
But I don't think so.
No, I think the only people you ever see fuck around with their gates are the two brothers and the dwarf at the very end. Mm-hmm. I hate the dwarf, dude. The dwarf... I wish that the dwarf just died and then it didn't have that prolonged scene where he gets thrown to the gate. I feel like that added almost nothing to it.
Yeah, it was a little unnecessary.
Yeah. Honestly, like, Brotherhood's, like, weakest part might just be the way it ends. Or not even, like, the way it ends, really. It ends well. Just, like, kind of, like, at the last second, it does this weird, I don't know, lore dump on you. Mm. Like, at the end of Brotherhood, I think the ending itself is more satisfying ultimately than 03, because 03's ending is not an ending.
Yep. Yeah, Brotherhood definitely has a more satisfying ending, not just because it is an ending, but also because, since it is the story that Arakawa intended from the start, a lot of the plot threads get, tied together and whatnot. Whereas in 03, a lot of them were just kind of dropped. And even in Conquer of Shambhala, they're not really picked up again.
So, I have a controversial opinion about one thing. I'm gonna, like, say from the bat, all my the reason it sounds like I'm criticizing Brotherhood so heavily is because I really do think it's better. And thus, like, it's more interesting, I think, to, like, point out what didn't work. So, one thing I didn't like upon rewatching it is I disliked General Armstrong quite a bit. Mm. Her character was, like, super one note and also, like, bad. Like, one thing that really struck me is having this huge moment of cognitive dissonance is, like, how she kept fucking chiding her brother for not wanting to do a genocide. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. And it's like, you could say it's consistent with her ethos of strength, but it doesn't, like, gel with the other thing that's trying to be conveyed about her, is that she's, like, a good person.
Yeah.
Like, her two big characteristics seem to be at odds with each other.
Yeah. Like, I think she's not the best character, but I didn't dislike her. But that is, like, probably the biggest part of her I didn't like was that bit.
Like, it's crazy. Because, like, when you first heard how, like, Armstrong ended up sort of deserting during the Ishbalan War of like extermination, you're, as an audience member, you're rightfully like very sympathetic. It's like, oh, this character,
Yeah.
you know, it's a little bit like tropey, but it's like this character who's like big and strong has like a tiny, delicate, soft heart,
Yeah.
and can't do a genocide against a people.
Yeah.
And then as soon as like they first interact, like all General Armstrong is doing is calling Alex like a deserter and a coward, and it's like, come on, dude, fuck off.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to play devil's advocate, even though I do agree with you, maybe it's that she wasn't in the Ishvalan War, so she didn't necessarily like know, like obviously she knew it was, you know, a shit show and a genocide and shit, but it's like she wasn't there at the time. Maybe because Armstrong, you know, is as a character sort of what she would think of as soft. She just heard, oh, he just, you know, left, and thought, oh, well, I guess he just didn't want to do his duty. And because she's like not very like sympathetic or anything, she didn't bother to try to think about his reasoning for it or something. I don't know. Again, I agree with you, but I'm trying to think of why that might have been the case.
A character who I think is a lot better in Brotherhood is Izumi, because she spends a lot less of her screen time like doing child abuse. They really played up that angle in 03, that she's like violent and crazy.
Yeah, when I was watching 03, like Izumi's one of my favorite characters in Brotherhood in the manga. So when I was watching 03, I was like, man,
She's got problems.
They really decided to emphasize that some of her worst traits. And I think a part of that was because they added Wrath, and they wanted to sort of like maybe up that or something.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Wrath in 03. The problem is that in Brotherhood, Bradley is Wrath, and in 03, Bradley is Pride. And so it's like...
to give context for if you guys don't know, so the main antagonists in both series, or at least the main supporting antagonists, are these homunculi who are like artificial humans who have regeneration powers, so if you like shoot them, they still just, like, they're like Deadpool, they'll be fine.
Each of the homunculus has like...
And each one is based on one of the seven deadly sins.
Yeah. Each homunculus has like super healing powers, and then like most of them also have some other like secondary like superpower.
Yeah, like Envy can change his shapeshift. Lust has these weird finger knife weapons. Pride in Brotherhood can control shadows and shit. To like become corporeal and grab you and stuff. That sort of thing. But again, because in 03 they didn't have all the manga out, they hadn't introduced all of the homunculi, so they had to make some new ones. And in doing so, they also switched one of the roles. King Bradley, who's like the leader of Amestris, and you find out is a homunculus. In 03, he is Wrath.
No, he's Pride.
He's Pride. And then in Brotherhood, he's Wrath.
Which is bizarre in its own right, because they're the same character. It's like, you know, the homunculus are supposed to be like some sort of example of their sin they represent, but when it comes down to it, Bradley's character is really, honestly, not terribly prideful or wrathful.
Yeah, I think, like, you could make an argument both ways for both of them, but I think, like, on one hand, it's sort of implied later in Brotherhood that his kind of niceness, is all an act, and he's actually pretty fucking infuriated on the inside, but we don't really see it because he hides it from almost all of when we see him.
He
whereas
never gets angry. He almost never raises his voice. Even when he's having that last fight with Scar, he fucking waxes poetic about it. He's like, we're just two men with no names fighting each other. It's get mad, dude. Be wrathful.
I don't know.
And then he dies peacefully as an old man. It's bizarre.
I don't know. When he splits up Mustang's team, he's kind of I don't know.
He barely raises his voice. I mean, he just comes off as more conniving than anything.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, maybe it's just my interpretation, but I always kind of thought he was on the inside, but then always wore this mask. But I don't know.
I mean, I just feel like his anger in Brotherhood isn't ever represented or alluded to. He does talk about how much he fucking hates everything.
Mm-hmm.
But all the homunculus talk about how they hate everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unique. Pride, in Brotherhood, Salim
mm-hmm.
also is wearing a mask and is constantly talking about how much he fucking hates humans.
Yeah.
So that's my point
mm-hmm.
about Bradley's character specifically in both ones. It's he just seems kind of just a bad guy, a higher up generic bad guy,
Mm-hmm.
In 03, it's not he's terribly prideful. He's the king, but it's not he's I'm the best king or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which is in, gluttony is always talking about being hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking greed is always talking about trying to get shit.
Yeah.
But Bradley's just kind of I'm a bad guy too, guys. I'm not saying that his character is bad. I'm just saying that it's not consistent with sort of the world building.
Yeah, some of the homunculi do seem kind of some are weaker than others in terms of representing their vice, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, on the flip side, some of them are only their vice, which
mm-hmm.
is also boring. Gluttony is just pretty one note. He's I'm so hungry all the fucking time, which is why nobody cares about his character.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Brotherhood, Sloth is just always complaining.
Yeah.
I mean, the flip side is that Sloth in 03 never makes any reference to her representative thing. She just exists.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a wash.
Mm-hmm. Let's segue into 03 a bit more.
Okay.
I guess while we're talking about the homunculi, I have mixed feelings about them. On one hand, I do like the twist in 03 that it's people who have been brought back
mm-hmm.
become homunculi. I think that was really clever of them.
Yep.
But on the other hand, it does sort of make their 7 sins thing seem inconsistent.
It's a little arbitrary.
It's because then it's the ones who were originally in the manga do sort of go with their sin, but then some of Sloth, like you said, doesn't.
Just incidentally, yeah.
And then also just from sort of a world building standpoint, it makes me think if you think too hard about it, it's why are they the 7 deadly sins? Is that just Dante's thing because she's the one who found them and brought them together and was hey, you guys, I'm gonna name you guys after the sins now, act like it, okay? Or what would happen if there are more, if it's people who brought back from the dead, what happens if there are more than 7 of them? Or what if one of them wants to be a different sin,
I don't know.
It's it bring like again. I think it was clever what they did, but it did sort of bring about a bit of a, I don't know if you'd call it a plot hole, but I guess it makes you wonder why even keep the sin thing.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems kind of just like it existed in the manga and they didn't want to change it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's a good point that, like, you know, what does it matter? I mean, the thing is that, for what it's worth, in Brotherhood, the, like, sin they represent is, as a general rule, sort of Bradley notwithstanding, more pronounced.
Agreed.
Especially with like in 03, Envy's sin is way more implicit. Like Envy's sort of enviousness is kind of only like very, you know, symbolic. Envy's power is to turn into other people, and it's like, okay, this is symbolically envious. She wants to have what others have. Whereas in Brotherhood, like, Envy's true form ends up sort of supporting his sin a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's the same deal with a lot of them. In Brotherhood, you know, Lust actually, like, sort of uses not only her, like, special knife hands, but she also, like, lays a honeypot for Havoc at one point. Which is something that, like, corroborates her lustfulness a lot more than just in 03, where it's like, she's sexy lady.
Yeah. Also, like, if you don't know, the reason for the homunculi in Brotherhood is that the main antagonist, the Dwarf in the Flask, aka Father, wanted to become a perfect being, and in doing so, he thought the way to do that was to take the 7 deadly sins from his own soul, and when he did so, they became like new people, and that's why they have those names and have those traits.
I think, conversely, another problem with that is this. In 03, it makes a lot of sense why the homunculus bother listening to and doing what Dante says, because, like, they stand to gain from it directly. Whereas in Brotherhood, it seems like the homunculus follow Father for very arbitrary reasons. Like, some of these homunculus, like, the ones that really stick out to me are Lust, Gluttony, and Sloth. It doesn't make a lot of sense why they do what they're told. We know that homunculus can, like, disobey because greed disobeys. And greed disobeys for, like, reasons that make sense. Greed doesn't want to listen to his father. Greed wants to look out for his own self-interest.
Right.
Gluttony is constantly making these references to how he just wants to eat people, and he's constantly told no, and he's obedient for seemingly no reason. Sloth is constantly put to work and, like, just does it instead of not. It's a little bit, like, hard to justify their reasoning. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but in 03, it's like Dante promises them souls, and, like, they make it clear from their actions and their words that, like, not having a soul is causing them, like, some sort of great existential pain.
Yeah, I do agree that, like, that reasoning is a lot more clear-cut. I always figured from Brotherhood that, like, for sure a couple of them, like Sloth, for example, it seems the only reason he does what he's told is because he's too lazy to argue back, and when pride like makes him do it with his shadows and shit. But that's not a super strong reason. Whereas with Gluttony, it's like he does seem to care about like lust and maybe envy or some of the others, but he seems to like just want to do whatever lust tells him to do because he loves her.
Sure. And then lust dies.
Yeah,
and
then
still
lust
kind of
dies.
just does what pride tells him to do.
Yeah. Well, I think.
I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that it's hard to manipulate gluttony.
Right.
Gluttony is sort of represented as a simpleton.
Yeah. That was kind of what I always figured. It's like he just does what he's told because he doesn't really consider not doing it.
But characters like he constantly is like asking, like, can I eat the guy? And characters are constantly telling him no.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could chalk it up to him just being a simpleton to why he's like complicit in this, but like you have to wonder, it's like...
I mean, there's also the fact that Father, like, if they disobey and he catches you, he can just fucking kill you like he does with Greed. So maybe Gluttony, like, also doesn't want that. He doesn't want to get punished like he would think he might if he disobeys.
Maybe. I just have to wonder, like...
Yeah. I mean,
I
like,
don't know.
again, I agree it's, like, not super clear-cut. It's sort of... You sort of have to, like, think of the reasons on your own, but...
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's, like, sort of the central point of why... of where O3 is stronger, is that, like, the villains' motivations and origins and, like, everything are a lot more, like, you know, defined and, like, explained.
Yeah.
Whereas in Brotherhood, it's like, they're good villains, but, like, you'd be hard-pressed to explain why they want to do any of this shit. Like, Father's reason makes enough sense. Father, like, wants to become the perfect being and wants to, like, and thirsts for, like, absolute knowledge. He wants omniscience. But, like, his aspects are a little bit like, you know, the homunculus are a little bit like, they're also here for, like, dramatic threats.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could maybe make the argument, but it's, again, not a super strong one, that they are technically parts of him. So you might think his desires could also sort of been a part of them when he, like, separated them. And maybe they want to, so that's why they want to help him, or maybe it's sort of also that sort of, not like they're a family, but, you know, he created them, so they feel obligated, maybe, like, some of them, to help, like that seems to be Pride's main explanation when he talks about it. And again, not all, I don't think that applies to all of them, but it could be a factor for some of them.
Yeah, Greed was an 03.
Yeah, original Greed in Doubleth was an 03, but Greed Ling was not.
Yeah.
Because Ling wasn't.
Yeah, Greed dies in 03, like, pretty soon after he's introduced.
Which also sort of segues me into... It's my turn to complain about stuff. So again, I do love both versions. 03, while I think is more flawed, it's still extremely good. So even though I'm about to complain about some shit, don't think I don't like it. But one thing that struck me when rewatching it, I hadn't seen 03 for a few years. So I kind of forgotten some of it. And it struck me watching it again, especially since I don't remember if last time I watched it was before I like watched Brotherhood or read the manga to like compare them. But watching it again, there were like a lot more, I don't know if I would call them plot holes necessarily, but I guess there were a lot of things adaptation-wise that they changed, like a lot of little things, where at first it doesn't seem that bad, but they did sort of make things a little more confusing sometimes. For instance, I remember there's the bit where like Ed meets Dr. Marco is done differently. And I'm having a little bit of trouble remembering now, but I remember at the time when we were watching it, I was thinking like, wait, this doesn't make a huge amount of sense in terms of like where they are and what the timeline of the show, I guess. Like I remember they changed it so that instead of Armstrong being with them, I think it was I remember. So in Brotherhood, it's Ed gets his arm blown off by Scar, and then he's on his way with Armstrong and Al to get it fixed in Risenbull. When on the way, Armstrong happens to see Marco at the train station, and that's why they go talk to him. Whereas in 03, they have that bit with him and Mustang fighting on the parade grounds, and then afterwards, Roy tells him about Marco, and he goes off in search of him. Just him and Al, I think. So they go do that, and they talk to Marco, and then, like, I'm trying to remember, it's been a few weeks since we watched it, but I think, like, Grand shows up, Brigadier Grand.
Yeah.
And then Scar also shows up, and this is, like, all in the little village Marco's in, and then also the forces in Central are talking about it at the same time, or something like that. And it's like been kind of established that they had to take a train all the way to this tiny village out sort of in the like not in the boonies, but like fairly far from Central. So it like didn't make a whole lot of sense why suddenly Scar and Grand were both there. And then I think Hughes and Mustang were talking about it like immediately. So like little things, it was like stuff like that. And another one that's a little bit nitpicky was when they like sort of changed some stuff but then didn't change other things, and then when they sort of collided it didn't make a huge amount of it was sort of like what
I think you can nitpick both series quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's like plot contrivances are things that just happen in a lot of anime, and honestly a lot of like, you know, fiction just period.
Yeah, for sure.
So
but, like there were definitely, I guess, more times in not Brotherhood, in 03 than I'd remembered, where it sort of felt like characters went to a place just for the plot. Like later in the series, there's this whole part where like Mustang's crew, Winry, Ed and Al, and Sheska all sort of go to this one place, and the reasoning sort of felt like it was just because the plot needed them there. It didn't really feel like they went there for a reason, especially like Mustang's crew. They're just like, yeah, we're here too, you guys. But anyway, what I was talking about, my more nitpicky one was, so in 03 they changed the timeline up a bit, where they have Ed take, when he takes his alchemy exam is when the stuff happens with like Nina and Alexander, and the Hughes's daughter Alicia is born, which is changed because in the manga and Brotherhood that all happens in the present when he's like 15, which on the surface is fine, but it did cause for a few tiny things to make be a little weird, because sometimes they would refer to a thing like it just happened even though to them it happened 3 years ago. Like, for instance, the baby thing. They, like, go to see Izumi in Dublith, and they're having dinner, and they're like, oh, by the way, we saw a baby get born. And she's like, oh, that's great. It's great to see the miracle of life as an alchemist. And in Brotherhood, it makes sense that they would just bring that up randomly because it just happened. But in 03, it was a little weird because it was nothing really led into that conversation, and it happened 3 years ago. So again, it's more of a nitpicky thing, but it did make me kind of be like, wait.
I mean, I don't know. It seems pretty small.
Yeah. But I guess I'm just using that as an example of, like, it's small, but I felt like I can't off the top of my head think of a lot of specific examples like that. That was sort of one of them that sort of stuck with me. But I felt like when I was watching it, there were more of those sorts of little things that, like, adaptation-wise, were a little off, I guess, because of some of the stuff they changed meshing with some of the stuff they didn't change.
I see that, and I get where you're coming from, but again, I think that there's like plenty of plot holes in Brotherhood. I don't think it's like really a point for or against either one.
And I'm not saying it is. It's just an observation that I made, you know. I'm not saying that it's necessarily, you know, like Brotherhood didn't have any plot holes like that or anything like that. I'm just, you know, we're discussing the things we noticed, and that is one that I noticed.
Okay. Here's one. Why in Brotherhood? Why didn't they? If they can make people do human transmutation, why didn't they just do it?
Oh, so they did kind of explain that afterwards.
Yeah, I know. Like, Pride falls apart a little bit, but
so
you can just make a new one.
Well, the other thing they need with that is an alchemist who has knowledge of human transmutation, which there are not very many of those.
Sure. So, like, if they had, like, an alchemist who has not made, like, a philosopher's stone
I don't know if you could make a new Pride if he, like, actually just, like, didn't get reabsorbed. He just frickin'...
What the fuck does Father care if Pride dies?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like that was, like, a last resort thing, and that's why they never did it before. They were hoping that they could just not have to if they had enough sacrifices.
I mean, does that make sense to let your, like, sort of, like, let these dangerous free agents run free?
Well, I think to their hubris, they figured it was fine.
But they obviously don't, because they're, like, constantly after them and, like...
Well, I mean, I think they kept tabs on them to make sure they didn't, like, leave the country or get too close to figuring out what they were doing.
Well, they didn't just keep tabs on them. They, like, would actively, like, capture them on multiple occasions. They, like, for example, one person they, like, talked about doing a sacrifice with was Dr. Marco, who, like, instead of just keeping tabs on him, they kept him, like, locked up in a thing.
Yeah, but that was because Marco, they didn't, like, want people to know he was still around.
Why?
Because they probably figured, what was the reason? I think it was because, like, Ed and Al were getting closer and they didn't want, or, no, what was it? I think it was because Marco, like, knew more about what they were planning and they didn't want him to go around telling people or something, maybe?
About what?
About, like, the Philosopher's Stones and shit. Like, Ed, like, they didn't, like, he went into hiding and they couldn't find him, so they couldn't capture him then. But then Ed finds him, and because they're following Ed, they find him.
And then they capture him and they lock him up.
Yeah.
Why didn't they lock up Ed and Al and Mustang? At one
point,
they
because they didn't know about that shit.
At one point, they, like,
eventually, they know that Mustang knows that they're homunculuses, but they just let him go. They don't try and lock him up like Dr. Marco.
Well, no, but they take his whole team hostage so that he can't, presumably, as far as they know, work against them.
Why don't they just put him in a cell?
Because he's a high-profile guy and people might ask questions?
Seems easy enough to fool people.
I don't know. I think a lot of it is sort of like Father and the homunculi thinking that they're above humans and...
Well, then why don't they just let Marco go free? It's not a good excuse. It's a plot hole. Which is my point. You can't, like, they're both full of plot holes.
Yeah.
Oh.
What?
I mean, the
I
problem
don't,
with...
I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like you're trying to say my point about the plot holes is less valid.
I'm not trying to say it's less valid. I'm just trying to say that, like, I don't think you can say that the plot holes bit is to, like,
I mean, I'm not saying...
O3's detriment.
Well, it can be to its detriment and to... They can be both of them.
Well, that's... But, see, that's my point. But you specifically brought up O3's plot holes.
Well, I was talking more about specifically their adaptation plot holes because it was a thing I noticed.
Okay.
It was because O3, one of the things that is interesting about it is that they had to make changes in sometimes it didn't work as well.
Okay, sure. Well, sometimes, like, Brotherhood has plot holes
Yeah,
too.
and I'm not saying that it doesn't.
Yeah, okay.
Like, we're both making criticisms.
No, I know.
And
my issue is that, like...
I wasn't saying, like, O3 has this problem and that makes it, like, that makes the other one, you know, better necessarily. I'm just saying that these issues do exist.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing with you that O3 has plot holes. I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like the thesis, or sort of the topic of conversation is a comparison. So, like, it's, you know, y'all notice plot holes. Mm-hmm. I don't think that is, like, a comparative thing.
No, I wasn't trying to make it comparative.
Right. But this, I don't know, man. We're talking about both of them like we're comparing them, though.
Yeah, but we can also just talk about them individually, which is what I was doing.
Well, okay. Then I'm talking about Brotherhood individually.
Okay.
To respond to what you just said, lewd and rude, I think that probably the problem with Wrath's subplot is that just in O3, Izumi isn't as well written. So, her whole deal with Wrath, like, you get what they're trying to go for, but they don't really...
Stick the landing?
Yeah, they don't really make an emotional impact at any point. It's like, Izumi had a miscarriage, which is, like, a huge deal and, like, a huge crisis. And, like, it's, you know, her relationship with Wrath has an implication in terms of, like, her character as a mother. But the way it's executed is, like, pretty, I don't know, weak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things I didn't like about that was they felt like in order to show Izumi's like motherhood towards Wrath, it had to be at the expense of her motherhood towards Ed and Al. Mm-hmm. Like she had to choose him over them, which, you know, kind of makes her character a lot less likable, I guess.
It's less sympathetic.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, man. It's like, you could call it like a character flaw, and you could call it like it makes her multi-dimensional, that like she's not a good person because for some reason she like values like literal blood over water. Mm-hmm. But I don't buy it because Izumi's character is like built up to be like this like not only a good person but a wise person. Mm-hmm.
She's their sensei.
Yeah. She's their sensei, and she like teaches them like sort of one of the central rules about the, let's call it the ethical use of alchemy. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense in Brotherhood because she sort of like remains true to that rule. But in 03, like her sudden obsession with Wrath is, again, it's like cognitive dissonance. It's like she's a hypocrite, and like no matter what, that like now makes her character obviously less sympathetic, but also less strong.
Yeah. Agreed.
No, we're talking about Wrath. Yeah, I really disliked Izumi in 03. I thought, like, I noticed all that stuff where it's like none of the stuff she did made any sense. Like, her character makes so much more sense in Brotherhood.
Yeah. Yeah, like when we were watching it and we were just sort of meeting her character, I was like, oh, it's Izumi, yay! Because, you know, I was thinking about, like, what I knew of her in the manga and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then as it went on, I was like, kind of, oh.
Oh, she's bad in this one. One thing I liked about 03 is that I feel like Cheska got to be in it more.
Yeah, and they definitely developed her character more.
That was nice.
She got to play a bigger role. One thing that I kind of noticed in 03 that surprised me because I didn't really remember it was I sort of got this general feeling that like some of the characters who were pretty important characters didn't really get to do a whole lot, especially in like the second half where it was all original stuff. Mm-hmm. Mainly like Winry and Mustang come to the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, Winry was kind of like disappears in the second half of 03.
Yeah, what's kind of funny though, I noticed in 03, like they actually went to the trouble of making her stick around longer, because she actually goes with Ed and Al on some of their adventures, but she doesn't really do anything.
She just yells at them.
Yeah, like it kind of reminded me of the Netflix movie where they gave her character like more screen time, but she just kind of stood around and looked pretty.
She like yells at them and calls them stupid and then cries.
Yeah.
Whereas in Brotherhood, she like usually does stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like in Brotherhood, like, you know, they have the whole part where they're being like, where Winry's like low-key being held hostage, and like Kimbley's there, and and that whole like grift that they do with Winry and Scar is like a good stuff. It's a good plot point.
Yeah.
And like Winry makes a good character choice, and she like decides to take an active role in the Crisis in Amestris, and then that none of that, nothing like that ever happens in 03. Winry's kind of just in the second half set dressing.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I think they try and give like Rose something to do in the second half of 03.
Yeah, that was like, I brought this up when we were just talking about it together, but one of the things that kind of like I hadn't realized was also as a thing was the 03 made sort of this weird kind of, at least to me, choice to give Rose this really big role as sort of a love interest almost. for Ed, and it felt a little out of nowhere. Like, sure, she's in the first episode, so she's sort of established as sort of important. But, like, Dante does this whole thing where she's like, I chose you because because Edward loves you, and because I'll take your body so I can be loved by the son of Hohenheim, which is also really creepy. But...
Oh, she's a villain.
Yeah. But, I was kind of like, why do you think that, though? What has led you to believe that Ed loves Rose?
First girl, dude. First girl.
First girl.
They do a dance in a ballroom.
Afterwards, at the end.
No, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
It's...
I just wonder why the animation studio decided to make her the big love interest.
I mean, it's probably has a lot to do with, a lot of the reasons that Winry and Izumi and Rose are like bad characters in 03 and like better characters in Brotherhood is probably because the plot of Brotherhood is written by a woman. Mm-hmm. Or a woman, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that she'd be better at writing female characters. Mm-hmm. Whereas in...
Yeah, but even like, we didn't watch Conqueror of Shambhala because it's bad.
Because there's no point, it's bad.
Yeah, but even in Conqueror of Shambhala, which, obviously was also created originally by the studio, not in the manga at all. When Ed's in like this alternate dimension world, which is just our world, there are like alternate dimension versions of the characters. Like there's Hughes, there's Al, there's and then there's one that's Rose. There's no Winry. There's no alternate version of Winry. There's just an alternate version of Rose, who is sort of his main love interest.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, why? Did whoever was the director or whoever made the decision just really love Rose?
I guess.
Why did you make this artistic decision? But going back to what I was saying, which also kind of ties into this as well, another character that I felt didn't really get to do very much in the second half of 03 was Mustang. Like in Brotherhood, he's sort of like, the man with all the strategies.
He's the man with the plan, as they might say.
Yeah, he's like got, even when they take his team hostage, he's got like still his spy network that he's making all these sort of pulling all these strings behind the scenes and doing shit, and he's involved in like the final battle. And in 03 I was kind of like, where's Mustang?
He appears at the end. He's like, I'm gonna fight the Fuhrer.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. And then another thing which I don't think necessarily is bad, I think it might be kind of interesting that they did, was that he does fight the Fuhrer, and he wins, but then it commits political suicide in doing so.
Yeah.
Like his main motivation throughout the whole series is to become the Fuhrer so that he can change Amestris from within and make it a better place. And in 03, he doesn't get to do that, which on one hand is kind of interesting because it's sort of like not what you would expect, but it's also kind of a bummer, and it's another reason Conqueror of Shambhala is like not as good. Like if they had ended on like they do in 03, and then in Conqueror of Shambhala when Ed goes back to Amestris, maybe find out Roy sort of overcame that or something, or at least maybe didn't overcome it but found out maybe he got some other sort of character epiphany, in some other way where he found meaning or something, then that might have been okay. But he doesn't really. He kind of is super depressed for most of the movie, and then in the fight scene he shows up and helps, and that's basic. That's it. That's kind of it.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a shame that they didn't utilize Roy. I mean, Roy is such a good character in Brotherhood because for just a lot of reasons. Because he spends all this time being so calculating, he's like a lot of times he's like aloof and he tries to like push his feelings away and stuff like this. He's sort of cold and calculating, which is one really good because like a lot of his character motivations involve a lot of emotion, right? He's like, once he's finally driven to do something out of emotion, he like goes crazy, like the scene where he's like killing Envy. Yeah, and he's like totally like losing it. He's like losing himself to rage. It's like such a good part.
Yeah.
And then also just the fact that like his speciality is flame, which is like, very poetically linked to emotion and sort of like unbridled, unchecked chaos, which is the opposite of his character. It's like good. It's good as fuck.
Yeah. Agreed, Big Easy Andrew.
And they don't do any of that shit in 03, which is like a huge missed opportunity. And it's like, hindsight's 20/20, and having seen both, it's like I can easily say it's like, what were you thinking? But honestly, what were they thinking?
Yeah, they even like initially kind of went to the trouble of giving him more tragic backstory by making him the killer of Winry's parents in 03.
Right.
But then it kind of feels like that doesn't necessarily go anywhere.
Yeah, at first, like when that first happens, you think it's going to be good and like clever. But that whole shit just ends up getting resolved with like Winry scowls at him and then forgives him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm glad this plot point was brought up.
Yeah, and that's sort of yet another, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess another unfortunate disservice to Winry's character. Because like in Brotherhood, her grappling with Scar, who killed her parents, is a pretty big subplot for her.
I did notice that, Rude and Lewd, and I think you're right.
What?
It's funny that Ed is like constantly regarded as like this prodigy, this amazing state alchemist, and then like every fight he gets and he just gets his butt kicked. I mean, I don't have a huge problem with that. It doesn't bug me, but it is like a funny thing to point out.
What always gets me is that he keeps alchemizing a spear.
He like always alchemizes a spear,
and then the spear like always immediately gets broken.
Yeah.
He's always like, maybe this time it'll work. It's like, just use your alchemy hand blade thing from the start, Ed.
Well, but even when he does that, it's just like he does that and then he misses 100 times. Like it, to the best of my recollection, in the animes, the fights he wins is that he wins the Lab 5 fight against number 47 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's clever about it and he uses alchemy, and then he wins like whatever the last fight is. And he like, because he doesn't win the first fight against the fucking prophet, Don Corneo. Or whatever.
Cornello.
Yeah. He gets captured and he has to do that like elaborate gotcha, the tapes were still on.
Yeah, well, that was kind of on purpose though.
No, listen. I think it's better that like he tends to solve his problems with like smarts rather than he beats stuff to death. Like that's more interesting in the long run. But I don't know, it's just funny.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, it's never honestly explicitly said that he's like powerful, honestly. It's more explicitly said that he's intelligent.
Yeah, for sure. He's like, they make a big deal out of him being an alchemical genius, which doesn't necessarily mean he fights good. Like, there are certainly alchemists who do, like Roy and Armstrong and Izumi are sort of all known for their battle prowess. But what gets Ed his certification is that he's smart and knows alchemy.
I mean, also it's like pointed out immediately that Ed's brother kicks his ass all the time.
Yeah, he does say that he just never won a fight against Al.
Like, Al is like, even though like Ed is the star and like there's sort of like, I don't know, this expectation for him to be the stronger brother, it's like the anime is very explicit that Al is way better at fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not even Al's fault that he's better in fighting. He's like a suit of armor that can move like just a normal guy. So of course he'd be better at fighting.
Yeah. I mean, and they even say like even before he was in the armor when they were training with Izumi, he also usually beat Ed.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good joke, but honestly, it's like, it makes sense that Ed gets his ass kicked constantly. It's,
like, he's definitely a fighter, but he's not like, that's not his main thing.
Yeah. Like, almost every other character is better at fighting than Ed is. Like, Izumi, Al, Armstrong, Mustang, they're all better fighters. Like, Hawkeye probably is more helpful in a fight than Ed is, unless Ed like thinks of a plan. That's the thing that does kill me about Ed's fighting. It's not that he's like weak, it's that in spite of being weak, he constantly is trying to like brute force his way out of situations. It's like, you're a genius who can use magic. Use magic, Ed.
Yeah.
And he like does this in both animes where he's like, I'm gonna stab my problems away. And it's like, you have this like amazing advantage where you don't need a circle to transmute. Use that!
Yeah.
I really, it's funny. They went to all this trouble in 03 to give Barry the Chopper a backstory to like show him before he gets put in the armor.
Yeah.
But Barry the Chopper's like just a way better character in Brotherhood.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I think a lot of times in media, in fiction, like sort of the character who's like the psychotic jokester can be a really like kind of cringy trope.
Yeah.
But they really do nail it with Barry, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that was another like teeny tiny instant where the adaptation didn't quite make sense because, like you said, they added that Ed meets Barry the Chopper before Lab 5. So you would assume that even though Al wasn't like, with him at the time, he probably was told what happened with Barry the Chopper, so he would know who he is, right?
Yeah, no, but then, Ed just never tells him.
But then they go to Lab 5, and he's like, I'm Barry the Chopper, and Al's like, who?
Yeah, it's like, Ed gets back after that whole ordeal, and like Al's like, how was your day today, brother? And he's like,
yeah,
it's fine.
One thing I didn't like in Brotherhood is what happens to Pride. Like it.
Oh, how he gets et up by Dad?
No. Pride.
Oh, Pride. Okay, I was thinking about Greed.
So Pride is Salim Bradley. He physically looks like a little kid, and all the other homunculi get killed in some way or another. But Pride, Ed like somehow reaches into his soul and pulls out his soul from the Philosopher's Stone and turns him into a weird.
Turns into like an embryo.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what? Like, that doesn't make sense to me in terms of how did he even do that, and also why? Because I was thinking about this. I'm like, on one hand, maybe it's like, oh, it's because they didn't want to kill off the kid, the child, or like the character that looks like a little child. But like, no, Fullmetal Alchemist is fine with that.
Yeah, they killed fucking Nina in the first 5 episodes.
Yeah, and also they beat the shit out of Salim earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like, Arakawa has no problem with showing child murder, and also he's not actually a child. But even if he was, again, that's not the issue. And then I was like, well, maybe because they didn't want Ed to kill. Like, he seemed pretty adamant about not actually killing anyone, which we can get back to in 03, because he's a lot more murdery in that one. But then I was like, well, but that doesn't seem to be the case, because if that was the case and Arakawa just didn't want Ed to ever actually kill someone, she could have just, like, made someone else do it. Like, Ed specifically stays behind to do this to Celine. She could have just, like, there were people with him. One of them could have done it.
Yeah, dude.
So I'm like, why did, I don't understand, why did they do that?
Also, for, like, what it's worth, then at the end of when everything's said and done, Ed just gives fucking Miss Bradley this tiny embryo and is like, oh, here's your son. And she's just like, cool, and she just raises it.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine off screen they explain shit, and, like, if all the other characters could believe it, then I guess she could. But, yeah, it is kind of like, what?
Yeah, it's like the sort of thing where like, if you think about it too much,
yeah.
It's like, that's
like,
weird.
I feel like, at least for me, that was, like, the biggest plot point where I was just straight up like, I don't like or understand this. But yeah, I think that was probably my biggest moment in Brotherhood, where, and the manga, it happens in the manga too. But I guess segueing from that, when I was watching 03, I was like, man, it's a lot more murdery in this one.
Oh, sure. I'm
not saying it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think it certainly, like, you know, the tone of 03 goes in a very different direction, and it also, like, deals with a lot of different themes. So I think it makes sense that they had Ed, like, kill a few people, and I thought it was, you know, I like, except for the ambiguous Conqueror of Shambhala ending, I liked how, like, Ed sort of comes to terms with life and death and his own death and etc. But it was certainly, like, an observation while we were watching where I was like, did Ed kill anyone in Brotherhood?
Yeah. I feel like in, like, a handful of shonen anime, there's, like, a big deal is made about, like, the main character not doing murder.
Yeah.
And I never get invested in that one way or the other. So if Ed wants to be murdery, fine. If Ed wants to, like, hold life sacred, also fine.
Yeah.
You know, unless it's, like, kind of, like, a huge plot point, I didn't get really invested in it.
Right. Yeah, same.
They make, like, kind of a big deal about it, and Ed, like, kind of is like, I killed Greed, blah, 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 in 03, but he gets over it pretty quick, so I also did.
Yeah, same. Who does he kill in 03? He kills, like, 3 people, right?
The only one I remember is Greed, because that's the first one, and that's the one he makes the biggest deal about. I can't remember who else he kills, honestly. Like, I don't know, does it count when he kills Wrath and Sloth?
Yeah, I would say that counts.
So, I mean, like, he kills a few homunculus.
Yeah.
You know, the other 2 homunculus who die in 03 are killed by Mustang. And then Gluttony and Envy don't get killed in 03.
No, my first place.
Gluttony is presumably just still underneath the city, hanging out, which is another loose end.
Yeah, well, in Conqueror of Shambhala...
Chelsea, I didn't watch that, it doesn't count.
I know, I'm just telling you. In Conqueror of Shambhala, from what I remember, I haven't seen it in a long time, Al goes down to the Forbidden City, and Gluttony and Wrath are just down there. And No, not Wrath. Gluttony and...
Maybe Wrath is down there. I don't remember if Wrath dies. I know that Sloth does. Maybe.
No, I think it was Wrath.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what exactly happens, but Wrath, like, for some reason, decides to help Al out and kills Gluttony and himself to use their blood to activate the transmutation circle that allows him to go to the other side of the gate. Mm-hmm. So he can be dead. It was some, or maybe just open it so that it can come through. I don't remember. Whatever. But yeah, long story short, they, I think, die in Conquer Ocean Ball.
Gotcha. Okay.
And same thing with Envy. He becomes a weird green dragon for some reason.
Yeah, I figured Envy probably died in Conquer Ocean Ball.
And he eats Hohenheim, and I think he gets killed.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Hohenheim is very different in both versions.
That's true. Hohenheim doesn't get nearly as much screen time in 03, so it's kind of like we don't get a really solid picture of his character.
Yeah.
I mean, like...
He's also given, though, like, from what you do know of him, his sort of backstory is a lot more like he brought it upon himself.
He's like much more of like kind of a bad guy in 03. Like,
yeah, in Brotherhood, he was like tricked and a victim.
He was an unwitting pawn.
Yeah, when all the shit happened. Whereas in 03, it's pretty heavily implied that he like willingly and knowingly did all that shit. So that alone makes him a little more sympathetic in Brotherhood, and then like he also is actually in it a lot more, and you get to know him a bit more.
Yeah.
Well, one of my biggest complaints about Brotherhood, from also this one is an adaptation as well, but from the manga, is that they cut out a lot of Hohenheim's more like humanizing moments, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, I don't know if they thought that it didn't really fit with the tone, even though they had plenty of other times where it was like suddenly kind of a goofy moment. But in the manga, there are a lot of times where Hohenheim comes off as sort of, I don't know, more human, I guess. He sort of seems like, instead of being like sort of this mysterious, all-knowing guy, he's a lot more like, I'm just trying to do what's best, but I don't really know, you know?
Yeah, Hohenheim in Brotherhood definitely comes off a little bit Mary Sue-ish.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's always, it's like you said, he doesn't really get a lot of humanizing moments.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really get developed very much as a character. He kind of just goes around and, like, has the answer when the plot asks the question. Mm-hmm. Like...
Yeah, in the manga, there are a lot of these moments where, like, they're sort of silly, but in a way that fits, I guess. Like, when Ed first meets him again in front of Ed's mom's grave, they, like, totally cut a lot of this out in Brotherhood. But Hohenheim and him have sort of this whole conversation where Hohenheim is like, oh, it's Edward. I've heard a lot about what you've been doing. You're the smallest state alchemist in history, right? And Ed's like, I'm the youngest. And then when he walks away, Ed's like gets tired and walks away. Hohenheim sees that he has a ponytail instead of a braid, and he says like, "Hey, we look the same." And Ed like looks around and glares at him and like takes the ponytail out and braids it. Looks at him again with this death stare and sort of just walks away.
Good night, Lude and Rude, aka Queso.
Good night. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Follow if you liked us.
But yeah, there are like lots of little moments like that. And the weird thing is they kept a couple of them in.
Yeah.
Like when he goes to Lior and like is like begging for food or whatever. That's sort of a sillier moment they kept.
Right.
So, but because they didn't keep the other bits, it felt a little out of character, or at least a little I don't know, out of place.
Yeah.
So I guess that's another adaptation criticism I have.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I've never read the manga, but I found Hohenheim in the Brotherhood anime to be pretty weak.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he just sort of always showed up to make the plot do a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also, oh, dang it. There's also sort of this little bit at the very end of the manga that they cut out, where after Hohenheim dies, he sort of, it's implied that he's in whatever sort of afterlife and he meets Trisha again. And, I don't know, he just sort of tells her, like, I'm so proud of Ed and Al. Ed called me father, and they've grown up so strong, and they managed to get Al's body back in a way I never even thought of, and he's like really excited about it, and it's like kind of heartwarming, and I was sad that they took that out.
Yeah. Well, they took out like kind of all the little bits and pieces about like afterlife and this and that from the manga. I feel like, you know, it might be heartwarming, but like some of the stuff in the manga, like the afterlife stuff and like the like little like goof 'em ups, like if father was ingested sloth and all that stuff.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't have made much sense if they kept in like the little omakes at the end.
Yeah.
But the part with Hohenheim that I was talking about wasn't really a funny side bit, and it wasn't like they were in the afterlife. It was more like, I don't know, it was sort of vague. They weren't ghosts or anything, but it wasn't like in a particular afterlife or anything.
Gotcha. I don't know if I would have appreciated that, honestly. I felt like that would have
I don't know.
become
It also
a platform 9 3/4 10 years later kind of moment.
I mean, again, it also probably would have made more sense if they kept all of his other stuff in.
Yeah.
Because a part of why that's heartwarming is because you saw all that sort of his more humanizing moments before. So if they had kept it in but not the other stuff, then it might have been a little odd. I don't know. I guess just in general, I wish they'd kept more of his moments.
Sure. It's starting to get pretty late. You want to wrap up?
Sure. We can do this last one. Did any of you guys have any comments?
Questions?
About Fullmetal Alchemist, anime, Infinity War?
No problem, Greta.
Thanks for joining.
Watching.
I'm sorry, Greta. I've like not actually been paying attention. I've gotten so into our conversation. I have not actually paid attention to the video game as per usual Mario Kart. So I haven't even noticed if you were like playing. I also haven't noticed really how well I've been doing, except for if I get first place.
Is there anyone who is... C2E asks, is there anyone who is gay, queer, or lesbian in the Marvel Universe or FMA?
There definitely is in the comics in the Marvel Universe. In the MCU...
Cinematic Universe?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anyone who's like canonically gay.
I don't recall if there's anyone who like is overtly like it comes up on screen yet, which is unfortunate.
The only queer person I can think of in Fullmetal Alchemist is Mr. Garfield, who is unbelievably offensive.
Yeah. That is unfortunate.
Yeah. Every time he was on screen, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, please, no anime.
Yeah. And like, I obviously am not making an excuse for it, but I think it is maybe a sign of like when it came out in the culture in Japan.
Sure.
Like I've seen some of those stereotypes in anime and some that were like around then and older, but thankfully I don't think I've seen too much of that more recently.
It's definitely a little less prevalent, at least.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, on that uplifting note,
but there are in the as you probably know, C. Dewey, because I know you. I'm pretty sure you read the comics. There are a fair number of queer characters in the Marvel comic universe, so that's good. And hopefully some of those will be introduced. Oh, if you count the TV shows, in The Runaways, there's Carolina, and she's a lesbian. Which is the Runaways are pretty good. I haven't finished it yet because the third to the last episode was, I don't know, the writing wasn't as good as usual, and I just kind of never went back to it. But I should finish it just to see how it ended. But the Runaways are pretty good. They're like a teenage supergroup. Their backstory is interesting because they're all like the children of a group of supervillains who want to be. They don't necessarily want to be heroes. They just kind of want to run away from their parents and not become supervillains. But they have characters who are queer. And then, of course, Young Avengers, which is my favorite supergroup, has like almost all, I think all their characters are diverse in both race and sexuality. So they're one of the best groups, and I'm hoping that they join the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point. But yeah, if you like Marvel and you haven't read the comics for either of those, go check them out. They're really good. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.